Hello everybody, welcome back to Commonwealth Flipper. I thought I'd do a quick video since last week I did a video, I think it was last week, I get confused sometimes, about negative feedback. So I got, for the first time that I can ever remember, I got 2 negative feedback in the same week. Matter of fact, they were 3 days apart. So, I mean, I've gone stretches of years without getting negative feedback, and then sometimes I'll get like 2 or 3 in a year. I would say maybe 20, max 25 negative feedback in 20 years of doing eBay. So it's not something that happens often. I'd like to think that's because I'm fairly honest with the way I list things and pictures, and I deal with people in case there's some kind of misunderstanding. I don't know. But you're going to get negative feedback. It just happens from time to time. Sometimes it's your fault, and sometimes it's not your fault. Sometimes it's just a misunderstanding. And you need to have the patience and wherewithal to know what to do and when to do it. Now, I don't have all the answers, and I know I've heard from some other resellers that they do things a different way than I do them, and I get that. But this is just what I do, and you can take it or you can leave it, or you can give me some feedback in the comments and maybe help me out if you think that I should be doing it a different way. So, at any rate, I got 2 negative feedbacks. To me, the first one, when I read it, was just unbelievable. And I couldn't believe it. I almost didn't follow my typical protocol, but I ended up doing what I would typically do on this one anyways, and I'm glad I did so far. We'll see. At the time I'm filming this video here, I don't have a resolution to either problem. Now, by the time this video airs, I might very well have a resolution to the problem, and maybe I'll do a short clip and add it on the end. If not, I'll do a video later and tell you how both of these cases end up. I'll tell you about both cases, but the second one was a little bit different. I thought maybe there's a misunderstanding, and at this point, I still think there's a misunderstanding. Clearly, there's something off. I was going to put it on the screen, but it has, you know, the buyer ID and that kind of stuff, and I just don't even want to mess with that. So let me read them both to you, and I'm going to look at my screen up here. So I'm sorry if I'm distracting you here. The first one is the one that just seemed a little crazy to me. It was an NCAA Football 08 PlayStation game, and the feedback was negative. I never got any kind of message from either of these people. The first I had heard that they were unsatisfied was on the negative feedback. Now, if you're ever a buyer out there, don't ever do that. Go ahead and contact the buyer first and then see what happens from there. If they would have contacted me, we probably could have got either of these things straightened out and resolved before any of this had to happen. But they look like they're fairly new. One of them has 5 feedback, and of course one of them is from the item they bought from me, so 4, and the other has 19, so 18. So they're both fairly new, at least to buying on eBay. All right, so NCAA Football 08. This game doesn't work. That's it, negative feedback. I'm like, okay. You might be thinking Commonwealth Picker doesn't test his games. That's not the case at all. We do test our games. As a matter of fact, I pay my boy to test the game. So if there's ever a problem with them, I go yell at the employees. At any rate, the second thing is that this game wasn't even testable. It was brand new. It was brand new, sealed, and in the package. So they say that this game doesn't work, and it's brand new when they got it. They won't respond to any message I've sent since they left the feedback. I've sent 2 messages at this point, and that's the first thing I do, is I'll send a message to the buyer, and I'm always very polite, like beyond polite. I don't know exactly what I said, but I'm sure it sounded something like this. I'm sorry you're unsatisfied with it. As always, I take full and complete returns, and I pay the return shipping if you have a problem with the item. Please open a case and return the item. I will give you a full refund. I don't even mention the negative feedback. I don't say, please remove the negative feedback and then I'll do this. I just say, hey, I'll give you the full refund, period, end of story. That helps me in the end when I'm dealing with eBay at the end. Now, they haven't responded back, so I don't know what the problem is. Maybe, I don't know. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt and say that they opened a brand new packaged item, put it in their system, and it just doesn't work. Let's say that it got damaged in transport. Let's say that they don't know how to work their machine. I mean, I don't know. But there's certainly no fault on my part. There's certainly no intent on my part. And I would even return this game. It would come back to me used. But I would even take it back in that case. And some of you are thinking, oh my gosh, no way I would do that. I would do that. It's not ideal. but I would do that. I would take it back. To me, on an item that low priced, my feedback score is a little bit more valuable, but they're going to have to send that thing back. They're not going to end up getting a free game from me by doing this. That is for sure. I'm going to take the item back. And if they don't send it, they're never going to get their refund. Now, because I've taken those steps, in a few days after they have not contacted me back, I might wait a week, I'm going to contact eBay. And there's different ways to do this, and this is where I do it different. There's eBay for Business on Facebook, and I've done that before. I just pick up the phone. I know the times of the week that I have a lot of success not having to wait, or I'll get the unique ID and I'll tell them to call me back. I know how to work it where I don't have to sit on a phone for 7 hours waiting for an answer. I always immediately ask to talk to a representative, and then always go right to the story, and I have all my ducks in a row. I have everything open, the screen is open, I have the ID, I know, I even have copies, I'll take pictures of what I said, so I'll have what I said so I can just really quickly walk anybody through it. Usually eBay is really good about it. If you have offered in the beginning, if you have offered free returns, and then you offer returns to the buyer after they've left the negative feedback, if you've done all the things that eBay would like you to do, if you've been, I even think that the way you deal with a person in the email makes a difference. It might not make a difference with the first person you talk to, but if it gets escalated to the next level, it will probably help you in the long run. I have only one time really been upset that eBay wouldn't help me, and it's been about 7 or 8 years ago. There's been a couple of feedbacks. Matter of fact, if you look at my account right now, there are 4 negative feedbacks. I'm fairly certain in saying 2 of them are going to be removed. One of them I never even fought, and it was just simply because of when the time it occurred. I was too busy. It was the only negative feedback I had, and I'm just like, whatever. 1 negative feedback and 3,000 positive, no big deal. And move on. And then one I didn't fight because I felt it was my mistake. It said that the shirt was more faded than I had described. And I remembered in my mind thinking, yeah, there's a little fading on this shirt. I went back and I looked at the listing, and I seemed to have minimized the fading in the listing. And I'm like, you know what? I'd probably feel the same way. And I let the feedback stand and I didn't argue it. Now, a lot of people would tell me I'm insane for doing that. But hey, it is what it is. And if you have a negative feedback, somebody gives you a negative feedback, you can't just cease doing business. You're going to still make sales. I've had 2 negative feedback on my account for 11 months. They're about ready to drop off. One was in a different language. I didn't even bother translating it. I was really busy, and I'm like, hey, just forget it. So if you get negative feedback out there, don't put your life on hold until that gets straightened out. Continue to do business and then take these certain steps. Now, these aren't the only steps. These aren't the steps that a lot of people take, but my step is simple. Always respond first to the person who left the feedback. Do it in a kind way. Do it in a gracious way. Don't do it in an accusatory way, even if you think that they have scammed you or are trying to scam you. Just do it in a proper and polite way. Think about it this way. If you were an employee at a restaurant, how would your employee want you to respond to a customer? Even if the customer is doing something that the business itself might not like, how would they want you to respond? And that's typically what I do. Now, if it gets personal, I'm just going to cut the conversation off entirely, and I'm going to go talk to eBay. If they start cussing and swearing and accusing or bribing or whatever, threatening you, any of that stuff, that's the end of the conversation, and you go right to eBay, and eBay should take care of you. Now, I hear all kinds of horror stories out there. None of those have happened to me. I certainly know of people that have dealt with eBay and have been in the right, and eBay has not done the right thing. As for me, so far, I've only had one of those episodes, and it's been a long time ago. So the second one is a little bit different, and it has to do with a Ralph Lauren polo shirt. And you probably saw me, and I went back to watch the video of myself selling it just to make sure it was the exact same shirt, because their feedback said, I bought a shirt and received a different. No, I bought a shirt and receive a different. Period. Bad seller. I'm like, okay. So obviously there's a little bit of a language issue here. So it's possible that this person is, in my mind, I'm thinking, you know, this person's either something's wrong with them if they're writing like that, or, and I don't mean that to sound accusatory, I just mean that to say, hey, I'm probably dealing with somebody who's got either some issue, or they're maybe not from the United States. I look back and it was an address inside the United States, but later on I found out in a different message that they weren't from the United States, and that put off a couple of alarm bells as well. So I responded to this one and I said, hey, you know, I'm really certain that I shipped you the right shirt, because I didn't say this. I knew I did because I went back and looked at the video that day and compared it to it. So I sent that shirt to somebody that day, and nobody else has complained about getting the wrong shirt. So I was 99.9% certain that I sent them the right shirt. And I said, hey, you know, I'm sorry you're unhappy with this shirt. Please return it for a total and complete refund, including the return shipping. I'll be happy to do that. And then at the end of that message, I put, hey, would you do me a favor and send me a picture of the shirt that I sent you, because I want to be able to fix whoever I sent the wrong shirt to. I didn't expect to hear anything back from this buyer at all. And they almost immediately sent me a message back with a picture. And I'm like, really? I got to see this picture. And they sent me a picture of the exact same shirt that they bought. It's the exact same shirt. And I'm like, what in the world? I still, right now, at this point, I don't understand what's going on. So the only thing I can think of is the color. They thought the color was different. And it's like a mix between purple and pink. And if you look at the picture, it looks a little bit more purple in the picture. And then in the picture they sent me, it looks a little bit more pink. If that's the case, and they're not happy with the color, then I'll be more than happy to give them a full refund and they can ship the shirt back. Matter of fact, with that shirt, because it's such a low-priced item, if it was my mistake, I probably wouldn't pay, like, say, at Goodwill as much for the shirt as it would cost me to ship it back. I may even give them a full refund without them shipping it back to me, which is not something I like to do. But if that's the issue, then that's what I'm going to do. I think doing these steps in this way are going to help you, and it's going to save you time. If you call up eBay and say, hey, this is what's going on, I want this stuff removed, they're going to go back and tell you, have you contacted the buyer? So go ahead and contact the buyer. Be as complete and as transparent as possible and polite. And then deal with eBay when they don't respond. Now, so far we've had one response and one no response. I am 99.9% sure that that negative feedback from the football game, from the PlayStation 2 game, is going to be removed. And I'm going to be one unhappy puppy if it isn't, but I bet it is. The other one I think will be removed as well. It may be, we'll see. By the way, the message I got back also said I'm not from the United States and I'm leaving the country in 5 days. Could you please issue me a refund? And I wrote back again and I said, hey, I will give you a full and complete refund. Please just open a case and send the item back. And I haven't heard back from them yet, but we'll see. I think we'll come to a resolution on that and get rid of those two negative feedback. So the other two that I had, which I mentioned earlier, are going to drop off here in a month. And if these two can be removed, which they really should be, then I'll have no negative feedback. But you know what? Even if I have two negative feedback, it doesn't bother me. You know, if you're at 99.8, 99.9% feedback, that's not going to stop people from buying from your store. And if it does, it might stop 1 in 1,000. Now, if you have 97% feedback, that's going to hurt you. You don't want that. So if you're a new reseller, you really, really need to sell a lot of items to get those feedback up so that when you do, if you do have a negative feedback, it doesn't just destroy your feedback score. So I hope that helps some of you new resellers out there. I don't mean to ramble on about it, but it's just an issue that I don't want people. I've seen people literally just freeze everything. They're just laser focused on that feedback score. And I don't know that that's always the best way to attack it. I have oftentimes had a negative feedback in the last 12 months and still sell a ton of items. Hope that helps, and let me know in the comments what you think. See you next time.